Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and do you remember the days when we only had one Super Saturday per year in the Eurovision calendar? I remember, because this year, much like last year and the year before, yesterday was the first Super Saturday of multiple in this season, where 4 entire countries picked their songs for Eurovision, with a 5th one choosing today. And the first of those 4 from yesterday was Estonia, with the much-anticipated final round of Eesti Laul, which I didn't get to watch, but I heard good things about it. So, by the end of all things Estonian, the people have spoken and they've gone with Victor Crone and a song called Storm. It's fully presented in English, music by Stig Resta, Victor Crone of course, and Valo Kikas, and lyrics by Stig and Victor and Fred Krieger. So, comparatively speaking, something of an all-star-ish team. I've heard that this song was favoured in the international community. I'm not trying to imply anything with that, it's just, this is a song people wanted to see win, and win indeed it did. But what do I think of the song? Because clearly, you're only here because you want to hear what I think. Well, when I first heard this song myself, 2 things came to mind. Firstly, that, to me, it really felt like the sort of thing that would sound at home in Melodifestivalen in Sweden, and since Victor is Swedish and has been there and done that before, that's really not all that surprising, all things considered. And secondly, that it really doesn't sound like the sort of song I would expect to have been written by Stig Resta of all people. Still, it's pretty okay. Yeah, the live staging is fun, what with his guitar just completely and instantaneously vanishing for 2 minutes and then reappearing out of thin air, and the backing dancer for that matter. One thing though, I found myself singing the lyrics to the UK's entry from last year's Eurovision during the refrain of this song, the only commonality being they were both called Storm, and yet the lyrics to Suri's Storm fit surprisingly well to Victor Crone's Storm. I'm not entirely sure why. Also, aside from that connection, once the song gets going, it very much reminded me of Ariana Grande's One Last Time, but in the same sense that Serbia 2017 reminded a lot of people of Katy Perry's Firework, it's a passing resemblance. Still, if your song is to be compared to an existing song, you could do a lot worse than Ariana Grande, just saying. Right, the very first thing that comes to the forefront of my mind as far as praise for this song goes is the way this song is structured, of all things. True, we already do have some entries this very year that bill themselves as being post-structuralist, so to speak, and that's fine too, but this song is a really good example of how to make a structured song work very well. In normal person words, what I mean is, the song starts off relatively basic and stripped back, just Victor and his vanishing guitar, but then it steadily builds up into something much more impactful and full of oomph and energy, and then it builds even further into the song's full-blown climax. And then, after that, it cools back down for a not-so-big finish, and it does that at a good pace to settle on, as I said, the way the song ends. All of it serves as a really good parallel to the eponymous Storm. Musically, meanwhile, in my notes, I wrote that this song is highly sing-alongable, and really, it is. It's the sort of thing that I can imagine hearing the entire audience singing along with in the arena on the night of the semi-finals and potentially the final. And that makes the song feel all the more momentous. It feels like people have made a connection, therefore I should also make a connection. It's like the not quite mass hysteria but sort of thing that I mentioned with the UK's entry this year. And let's hold on to the image of that live performance here as well for a second. At Eesti Laul, Victor gave what sounded, to me at least, like a studio-quality vocal performance. Between that and his charismatic, confident stage presence, the whole song gains a very distinctive air of notable credibility. Some first-time listeners will likely be bowled away by his delivery, and that's further compounded by everything about the live staging. If you're impressed by any of it, you're kind of right to do so. I've already mentioned how his guitar and his backing dancer appear to vanish and appear and disappear, all in the blink of an eye back and forth. And then, on top of that with the live presentation, there's also the visual effects where the storm clouds roll in and out of view and then suddenly he's on a mountaintop and it's all weird. And I don't like that, personally. Like, it is effective, and if you like it, again, you are right to do so. It is technically very impressive. It just seems overblown to me, using a video overlay instead of actually showing us the live performance throughout, but that is just me. It is, as I say, effective in selling the song and creating a moment and creating the atmosphere, and if you like that, you're not wrong to do so. You know what? I suppose I could take that last point and kind of run a bit further with it here. For all the praise I heaped upon how complete of a package the live staging is already, I think my reaction to it should sort of prove by itself that that is very much a double-edged sword here. I'm not saying the staging itself is one-for-one comparable to Russia's in 2016, but rather both have a similar effect, that to those who are engrossed by it, it's fully captivating and enjoyable and impressive and all of that good stuff, but to those who aren't quite sold on it, it can come across as what the internet likes to call try-hard. That the effort gone into selling the song through its visuals kind of overshadows the song itself, making it come across as chaotic and distracting. My main issue is, as I say, the part where what we see on camera is so heavily post-produced that it stops representing the reality of the stage altogether. But that could just as easily be someone else's favourite moment. You see, it's kind of, it could go one of two ways depending on the individual. Now, on a much less controversial note, I have to bring up the main criticism that I've heard people mention with this song, the lyrics, and specifically the lyrics of the refrain. A storm like this could break a man like this. You rhymed like this with like this. That strikes me as a little bit lazy. Again, not to deliberately draw parallels with Russia 2016, but that is kind of thunder and lightning, it's getting exciting levels of basic, and that undersells the potential and the quality of this song as a complete package. My reaction, though, isn't ew no so much as, oh really? If that makes any sense whatsoever as a comparison. I'm hoping you're still with me at this point. And finally, probably my biggest issue with the song is that I can't help but hear other songs in it. A bit of Ariana Grande, a bit of Avicii, and of course a pinch of Suri. It's not the song's fault per se. It's just, I kind of find it hard to hear the song for itself when it's so easy to mentally jump to comparing it to other pre-existing songs. I'm not saying it's a copy, I'm not saying it's plagiarism, I'm just saying it reminds me of other songs that my mind jumps to the point that it kind of makes this song lose its own identity a little bit. You feel? And if I have that trouble, if I find myself mentally drifting off and thinking about other songs, then I feel as though other people are probably bound to as well. Not everyone, but some people. But then again, maybe not. Maybe I'm completely alone here. So, on that note, how much do I hate this song? How much am I going to invoke rage from the Estonia stan community? Well, on my personal scale, I give this song a 7 out of 10. Yeah? Pretty decent. I'm okay with this song. I'm fine, I'm happy with it. I really like how it's structured, you know, how it builds up and then calms down. I like the energies Victor brings to the performance and the overall good vibes in the lyrics. The thing is, the only reason why I can't get further into it is, as I said, I keep finding myself comparing it to other songs I'm already more familiar with. And besides, this isn't really my personal flavour of music anyway. So I'm already not fully head over heels in love with it. I appreciate it for what it does, and I do think Estonia can be proud of it. It is a solid effort, it's just not for me personally. On the technical side, as if to prove that, I will award Victor and Friends a solid 8 out of 10. Musically, it suits the present-day European musical zeitgeist, and of course, there are parallels one can draw between the rise and fall of the song's energies and complexity, and the imagery of the passing storm that he's singing about, so it's certainly not as if there's nothing of note or of value here. It's just that it's so easy to observe how all of this has kind of been done before. This performance certainly does hold its own in a vacuum, it's just that it doesn't bring much to the table that wasn't already here. Still, 8 out of 10 is absolutely a score to be proud of, so I advise taking that and running with it. It's just, it may not be as universally loved as perhaps some people are expecting. So, with that observation in place, How's Estonia doing in the long run? What's the big picture here? Well, I would say they have found a good place for themselves in recent years. After a brief dip in results in 2016 and 2017, they've bounced back admirably, and in both years since then, they've not only sent competent songs, they've also absolutely got the audience at large, domestically and internationally, on their side, both with Eesti Laul as a show, and with the song that was chosen through Eesti Laul in the end when all's said and done. They've got the best of both worlds. They've got self-love, and in turn, they've got love from the outside looking in. So yes, I dare say that Estonia can be very happy with where they've found themselves in recent years, objectively speaking. They're in a good place, going well. However, will this song qualify? Well, I'm not a gambling man by any means, but I do fancy Victor's chances of at least reaching this year's grand final. It's got that perfect blend of a seasoned, capable live performer who hits all the right notes live and makes the whole thing look effortless, paired with the musical stylings and team leadership of Stig Resta, who has already achieved an admirable placing for Estonia at the contest. So with those two at the helm and the forefront of the team, and fervent public support in their sails, I think the semi-finals shouldn't give Estonia too much trouble this year. But don't think of that as a foregone conclusion by any means. Remember, people really loved Verona in 2017, and yet that missed the final by a not insignificant margin. So Victor's not safe, but he's also not in massive danger. As for if he'd win the whole show, I personally don't think so just yet, but who knows? Estonia could very well surprise us on the night, and I would be all for that. So, what do you lovely people think? As ever, check the iCard of this video for a poll where you can tell me exactly how you feel about the song. Like it, dislike it, somewhere in between, somewhere completely neutral, whatever you think, that's completely valid. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. I do read every single one, whether they're nice to me or not, and I really do love hearing what other people think. For now though, to Victor, to Stig, to all of Estonia as a whole, I sincerely wish you the very best of luck, and I look forward to seeing what you bring to the stage in Tel Aviv. See you then.